Good afternoon to all. So this is going to be a sandwich session. Lot of food for thought to mind. All of you are waiting for food for stomach. Uttar Pradesh full hai, Madhya Pradesh empty hai. I have to talk about heart. And a typical classroom, because the last session, just before the lunch, students want to walk out of the class. Just before this particular session, speakers have talked about attendance, marks, classroom interaction. The very interesting part of this session is I'm talking about the role of faculty in front of students. I was working as faculty member of one of the management institution in Bangalore for more than 15 years as a management faculty. Then moved on to the National Education Policy, Dr. K. Kasurangan Committee. And now be part of an institution which mainly works on research and capacity building. Associated with NGO. Yeah, if anybody would like to leave standing at the door, please allow them to go outside. Absolutely no problem. I don't mind. That's the first thing. Let them be happily take their lunch. Because I have done my research in happiness. If I now allow the people to be happy, so meaningless for my research. Anyway, any slide mover? You operate from there. Thank you. Run with me. Otherwise people will run away from here. Yeah, this is the... just a minute. Wait a minute. Go to the first slide. I want everybody to see my slides. Because it so happened, when I was teacher in a particular college, teaching management subject, I was preparing for the class. My younger son came to me and asked me, "What are you doing? Papa, what are you doing?" Yen martidyappa? And I told him, "I'm preparing PPT." "Oh, you teach PPT in class?" For a minute it struck me. I'm preparing PPT means what? Am I teaching how to do PPT in class or something else? That's number one. Number two, Papa, your same son, he is known for all these things. That's the reason I call him as Buddha. I don't know how he's got self-actualization, but he is making me to understand the life better. And he asked me one day, "What you teach in college? Every day you are going to college. What you teach?" I said, "Business management is my subject. I teach finance, accountancy, etc." He asked me, "How you teach, Papa? Because my teacher is teaching like this, all these things. How you teach?" You know, typical management professor, how they talk. So blah, 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 I told him. I wanted to make him very happy that I'm teaching so greatly, very good, fantastic. Then he told me, "No, this is how the children pick up the things from the external environment, and when they interact with the people outside, in the society, neighbor. Papa, how can you teach swimming without taking the students to the water? Can you teach through slides, with a multimedia, digital?" So again, it's a shock to me. Oh, Buddha, he's Buddha. Third thing, students normally today, if you ask, "So I'm going to be your Drona. So how you react?" "Nothing, sir, don't expect anything big thing from me, like Ekalavya. I want to be like Ekalavya, in the sense that I'll go to DD, Digital Drona. I'll not come to you." After several years in teaching, more than 15 years, my old professor came to me for some discussion. We met in some discussion. And he told, we're all surviving because students are not asking, why are you teaching all this? Students are not asking, why are you teaching this? I think that was one of the point made in the previous session also. I forgot the numbering of all this. The next number is about examination marks. And I made this remarks in one of the session. In recently Karnataka, they have increased the internal assessment marks from 30 to 40%. And in one of the session, I made a remarks that the best student in many of the colleges will get 28 out of 30. And the worst student, let me not quote as worst student, but let me use this term. The worst student will get 24 out of 30. Best student 28 out of 30 and the worst student 24 out of 30. And when I was addressing to students, one of the students asked me a question. Because I had given several talks on NEP, even I don't know the number. Somehow they got number 35. I think it is more than 50, 60, I don't know. One of the students asked me, why you are allowing teacher to give the internal assessment marks? So again, it struck me because who is allowing teacher to give the marks? It is not given by the teacher. It must be earned by the students. Then what is the role of a teacher? Then why there is a misconception that internal assessment marks are given? And how to make the students to earn that internal assessment marks? I think that's where the NEP is making a lot of contribution. The very topic that I am going to talk on, the role of faculty. What is the leadership role of a faculty? I think it is not visible to many of you. Mr. Fuller in his book, in one of his popular speech, he told, call me as a trim tab. I will not explain this, why I had put this here, this figure and the particular very quote of his, call me as a trim tab. So, last slide will tell you. So, picture abhi baki hai, so you have to wait till the last slide to know the final climax of the session. This is the trend today. The education system is becoming so complex. Even classroom interactions are becoming so complex. The role of a teacher or a faculty member is becoming much complex than the earlier. It is not so simple for many reasons. Technology is there. Students are well informed now. And there are a lot of resources available for all the teachers and students. And we are working towards assessment, accreditation, many administrative roles that we are playing. That means the multiple things are there today, and we would like to bring quality education. And referring to many popular institutions or benchmark institutions across the globe, we need to work. That's the situation. That's the trend. So it is becoming more complex. This is second line is, I think, very important. Faculty as career-long learners. I think there is, I think one of the book I was reading, it is very clearly mentioned in that book. I think, again, all these things are, will definitely, whenever you read or whenever you hear with somebody, it stuck just like that. Simple definition of an institution. Institution is the place where learners interact with learners. So how beautiful it is, how meaningful it is. So that means it is now identified very clearly that this is a career-long learners. We are career-long learners. And we must be flexible enough to adopt, learn and move on. Lead through collaboration. Only collaboration works. Whether it is for teaching or research, anything for that matter, collaboration only works. I think if you are able to make collaboration with faculty to write just a paper, who is working in other institution, other part of the country or elsewhere in the world, I think that's the greatest thing. Forget about your research outcome, what you have written in the paper. That is secondary. I think you are able to make that networking and collaboration for a particular work in the academia. I think that is becoming more important in these days. That's a trend. I think institution roles are changing, teacher role is changing. That is what we are going to discuss in the next 30-35 minutes. And very interesting is changing profile of learners. If you fail to recognize this, whatever the policy you bring, I think definitely we cannot do any difference. So learner profile is changing. We'll go to the next slide. This is the key terms in NEP. If you go through these three boxes, you'll understand the NEP, what is there in NEP. And because of all this, as a faculty, our role is changing, or it is much demanding today. And from this, we understand the expectation of not only the policy makers, we understand the expectation of the students. Most of the time, we worried about the understanding the expectations of industry and job providers. I think many a time we forget to understand the expectations of students. So policymakers have said these are the expectations from the teachers and the academia. So I think how to connect this, how to make it reality, I think that's where this conference is more relevant. That's how I accepted to travel all the way from Bangalore to here. I think this kind of discussions only can bring some meaningful outcome in realistic sense so that we can make this policy an implementable one. All policies were good, right from the Radhakrishnan Commission report. But in many cases, we failed in implementation. That's the reason it is a good thing happened this time. It's a much publicly debated, deliberated policy. So people are going into the minutes of this policy and possible interpretation, whatever is available or possible to make, I think the academia and people outside the academia are making it. So that's a good thing happening. Let's discuss more before we get into the action plan to prepare a roadmap for implementation. I think most of the states today are working on that. Karnataka is much ahead and started to implement the policy to a GO. I think Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh are also doing a lot of work. Recently there was a conference in Northeast. There was a representative even from the Uttar Pradesh presented. So what is the plan of Uttar Pradesh for implementation of NEP? I think these are the buzzwords. I think all of you had gone through this through the 400 plus pages document of Kasturirangan committee report or 60 plus cabinet approved policy. Next. To work technology, we need good, skillful human being. My dear friend, okay. This is the role of the faculty which is envisioned in the policy. I think I will not much deliberate upon this. But policy also says we need to provide that kind of a physical infrastructure, service condition, teaching loads, teacher-student ratios. I think morning 2 sessions, I was there the last part of the first session. Many times the discussion goes on the what is available and what is we are seeing today as a latest trend in terms of technology or the best adoptable methods of teaching or pedagogy by thinking that the whole country is in the same condition. Being worked with an NGO, in many parts of the country, it is very difficult even to have access to some of the resources, very basic resources. The internet. I think we need to take them also along with us to provide the quality education. So that's the reason if you read the very principles of NEP 2020 is to provide affordable, accessible, quality education to all. So it is affordable, accessible, quality education. It is not just access to education, it is access to quality education. And which must be available at the affordable price or affordable cost. When if it is not really to make it possible to make it affordable, I think we need to rethink about the entire costing of the education. We'll go to the next. Yeah, this is the problem. Slide mover is there, man? Slide mover, slide changer, some. Okay. I think this is a typical cartoon. Why I am going to school if my phone already knows everything? I think most of the students will ask this question. Earlier you used to tell a click of a mouse, now it is not even a click of a mouse. It is if you do like this. My 7-year, 8-year kid is doing like this. Not a surprise because everything they get. He is attending online class and asks me if he is not able to understand some meaning of the word. He asks me, what is this meaning? Even I am not an English professor, I don't know. My vocabulary is very less in English. So I don't know if I say this, immediately will tell, Papa, Google, immediately do it. So he knows that Google will give the meaning for that particular word. So if everything is available on mobile, on internet, basically students have access to all the information. And the question comes, what is the relevance? That is where even blended learning, digital learning, many things, MOOC courses, online courses available. What is the relevance of a teacher? It's a big question today. And at the same time, NEP states this. One of the fundamental principles of NEP looks at teachers and faculty as the heart of the learning process. Teachers as the heart of the learning process. Another side, students are asking why we need a teacher if everything is available. So that means there is something that we need to look into. We are relevant even today, not only today, tomorrow also we are going to be relevant for education. So that's the reason it is always teacher and students, learners and learners. Hope this cartoon makes sense to see what is that changes required or what is expected from all of us. Next. I think all of you can go through this slide. I don't need to explain. These are the 4 things very essential today for 21st century learning. This is the first policy of 21st century. That's the reason it is making a lot of noise. And it is giving a lot of voice to the academia to build their own curriculum, program, pedagogy, innovative assessment techniques through an enabled system. That's what called autonomy for institutions and individuals. There's a long pending demand of academia to get the autonomous status. Every institution wants autonomous status. Even the public universities, if you ask any vice chancellor of a public university, he will make the same remark that we need autonomous status. It's not only the private players, even the public universities have this demand for autonomous status. So if they will make a very simple statement, we want 360-degree autonomous status. How to measure that each degree in terms of autonomy? Very difficult. So now it is an opportunity. See, basically, policy is a directional statement. It gives all the vision. The visionary is thinking by understanding the realistic situations of the country, and all these policy points or recommendations are given. So now it is up to the academia, not necessarily the government only. Even academia need to work towards implementation of NEP at the individual level and institution level. So I think this is the 4 essential things for learning in the 21st century. Go to the next. You can just click 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, go on. Stop. There are key terms in NEP. One is multidisciplinary education. It is already discussed a lot in the morning. Let me not to get into that. Second key term, because policy points are there, how to make it a reality one. Otherwise we understand what is the spirit behind all this. We are not possible to move on. Make strategies for implementation. Bringing multidisciplinary as an approach, it is not just blending the subjects or an approach of liberal arts. It has its own meaning to make the entire learning environment as a learner-centered learning environment with appropriate pedagogy and assessment. That's where I am taking all these key things from the NEP. Multidisciplinary education. The second one is because we need to prepare T-shaped professionals. That's the reason we need multidisciplinary education. Always we receive this comment, our students are not employable. One of the industrialists made this comment. And academy as a philosophical, they say we are not only preparing our students for employment purpose, they have a larger purpose in their life, so we are preparing them for life. And that life includes the career or the job or the profession or a job or work, whatever you call. So I mean, we are preparing them for life. It includes we are preparing them for the profession or the industry or the work environment. That's the reason somebody said, if we just prepare the student for one job is not enough. We need to prepare them for second job, third job, fourth job. How it is possible? It is not possible to visualize what is going to happen after 1 year in this 4.0 technology era. Look at the revolution, industrial revolutions. It has taken a lot of years to change from one revolution to another revolution. But look at this, how fast it is changing and how it is impacting on not only on the industry, on society, community, economy and the education. I think this is the challenge we have. So how to address this through a vibrant education system. So that is the whole idea of the NEP 2020. So we need to move from a teacher-centered to a learner-centered. We'll go to the next slide. I will not get into this because most of you are aware of these points. How to involve students for learning process. That's the important thing. It is not we are teaching. It is basically we need to create an environment of learning. That's one thing I think all the teacher, they must shift from this teacher-centered knowledge transmission to the very engaging kind of classroom approach, irrespective of the discipline, whether it is science, commerce or arts. So that is the very important recommendation of NEP. We'll go to the next one. I think today as an affiliation system, most of the colleges in the country, the very interesting thing about affiliation system is it is introduced by British in India in the model of London University. I think after few years it is introduced in India. London University withdraw the affiliation system, but we are, even after 200 more years, we are following the affiliation system. Under the affiliation system, I think the colleges are not given any autonomy to prepare their own model of curricula. They are not permitted to have their own assessment system. But now, this NEP is giving that opportunity for every institution to develop their own curricula. Today, not immediately, over a period of 15 years' time. That's the window period given in the policy. Every institution should become autonomous degree granting college. So my worry is whether our faculty members in affiliate colleges are really equipped with that skill for curriculum development. It is in India it is not so developed, but if you go to Western countries, the curriculum design itself is a big course or a very popular course. I think it demands a learning for development of curricula. With knowing or unknowing, with have that skill or not, whether with having that knowledge or not, people are preparing the curricula. Many a times we will not understand whether they are preparing a syllabus or really they are preparing curricula. This is all the gaps. Many a times we blame universities for various reasons because the very designing of a curricula is actually in something that people are not really aware in most of the universities as I see. Let me make this comment on this particular forum. That is the problem, because we develop syllabus, reference books, and we will have some kind of examination system. That's the reason we will have the discussions what we had earlier with the different perspectives. But I think we need to move towards not syllabus making, really a curriculum designing, and that too learner-centered curriculum development with outcome-based approach. So just reverse. Normally it starts from content, but look at this, the content is the last step in the entire curriculum designing. That is where we need to work more, or I think even before that we need to understand the entire philosophy. So to make the entire education as a learner-centered education. Go to the next. Outcomes, assessment, design. It is not design and then move towards outcomes. I think today this institution is also an NBA accredited institution. I think it is inbuilt here the outcome-based education. In professional courses like engineering, management, because of the AICTE Washington Accord, we have the outcome-based education system in place. But in general degree courses, outcome-based education is still a new thing. Number one. Number two, many institutions, even the premier institutions, claim that we have outcome-based education. And I talk with a lot of research, the ground realities, and it is all empirical based. I had gone through many institutions' website and also the details of their outcome-based education system. It is just mentioned the outcomes, not the system in place. They have written all the graduate attributes, program outcomes, program-specific outcomes, learning outcomes, course outcomes, everything. But the system is not in place. It is just defined the outcome from, I think, sometimes it looks similar. Then how can we expect even our students to write different answers? If our outcomes are similar, even without changing any words in many of the institutions. That means, as a system, they have taken this outcomes from some sources. But really, are they implementing that? Even in the engineering education, many a times we will make this comment, we are not getting that kind of students who are really able to contribute through their engineering skills and knowledge, because we have mentioned the outcomes, we have mentioned the graduate attributes, but the entire system of education within the institution is not driven by the outcome-based education system. Even in some cases, because recently 2017-18, NAC also introduced outcome-based education in their criteria to teaching learning. Because of that reason, many of the institutions have taken these outcomes from various sources, and it is only as a document of NAC or part of IQAC it is mentioned. Maybe there are good institutions are there. I think somebody was talking about this institution also in the morning, that they are really progressing well and contributing a lot. There are few premier institutions who are really implemented outcome-based education. I think that's because if you look at my second slide, some of the key terms which I have taken from the NEP document that talks about the real role of a faculty to implement all this in their institutional level. You go to the next one. This is outcome-based education. Really, if you are implementing, it is not just the outcomes that you state as graduate attributes. It is the curriculum that includes teaching learning, that includes assessment. Policy talks about formative assessment. In the morning, we had one panelist made a comment on internal assessment marks of 30, 40, it must be more of term and or summative examination. Yeah, that is one way of thinking, nothing wrong in that. But the question is whether we need to prepare our education system and people who are involved in the education, or you call it stakeholders or the key stakeholders for the next level, or by understanding this is the level and do only this much. This is my question to all of you. This is the level, we are like this and let us continue with this. Or we have something better and prepare our entire community, academicians, teachers, students, everybody elevate to that level and adopt and move on? That's my question. Whether we need to think really in that direction or not. Unless otherwise something that is benchmark for us to move on, we always be on the operational things and we never get into the strategic things. Yeah, of course, I already told you that there are colleges which are giving 38 out of 40 for even for a worthless assignments and students not performed well. But there are the good teachers community, they are genuinely, our institution as a whole, genuinely giving inter-assessment marks, whether we have to allow them or not, at least to do that proper formative assessment. If you ask me, even if you are conducting this program, I don't know who are these boys and girls who are sitting here, whether the students or some executives, I don't know, students. I think you must give assessment marks for them, for this work also. Yeah, I think today NSS, NCC, whatever that, and curricula, extracurricular, co-curricular integration policy talks about, and UGC also issued a regulation, I think 2 years back, to provide some credits for NSS, NCC. We conduct many programs, and after the programs we call for an appreciation. I think we need to make them, and our appreciation is really required. At the same time, I think we must decode and tell them that you have done, you have exhibited, you have demonstrated all these skills in this conference. You have demonstrated all this, whatever you have learned in the class. That is what the even outcome-based education talks about. Whether the students is able to demonstrate it or not. Why people are making comment on the academia, teachers like us? Because the students who learn in the classroom not able to demonstrate it in the industry. So they need to put a lot of money for retrying and trying and retrying. If you are certifying that they are demonstrable one, they are able to demonstrate in a similar situation outside, I think that's the way we need to build confidence among the students. That's it, the purpose of education. If you are able to build that confidence through your curricula, pedagogy and assessment system, very importantly, assessment system is a confidence building system. And providing everything, and finally student is not going out of the college with that confidence, I think that whatever you have done is waste. That one confidence make them employable anywhere and definitely will grow. We give a lot of such examples. Big people without education, 10th pass and all, made empire, business empire. How they made it? Or with good education also, people had gone to the many levels, became politicians, successful politicians, leaders, community leaders. It's all that confidence they got through their learning environment, not necessarily from the college. I think that's the very purpose of outcome-based education. People have taken it as an Washington Accord and AICT and NBA part of NBA accreditation. No, that should be the spirit of every educational institution. And if you have 30 marks inter-assessment, you give marks for even these students for making all arrangement for this conference, cultural fest, and tell them this is what you learned in this. I think they are the better listeners here from better listeners also of this conference. If you ask them to write the proceedings, they write better than the participants many a time. And that's the reality. So we never understand this. And this is, if your summative assessment is 80 marks and 20 marks, and how you distribute for all this. And you prepare that system. I think this is the role of a faculty, to think what is that out of the box you call, or what is that alternative options available, really that you can make it happen. I am not talking something that is not possible and all philosophical things. If it is philosophy, it is possible to practice. Go to the next one. I think this is the role of faculty that normally for an affiliated college, unless otherwise you are an autonomous or an university, this is normally the role. University does everything and the faculty is just deliver it, transact it, and faculty are the only part of implementing, and they will not do anything. We'll go to the next one. This is as per the NEP vision. Yeah, it gives an indication that we can stop here. But I have committed for 1 hour. Anyway, end of affiliation system. This is also worrying me many a times. Whether our faculty is able to match all this requirement, curriculum development, having innovative assessment system, and teaching learning assumes new dimension and importance. What we call experiential learning, technology driven, many other things. I think this change proposed and this is going to be the impact. I think another one is institutional development plan involving the faculty members in strategic planning and management. So is it really possible for every institution to think in that direction to involve faculty members in strategic planning as a part of institutional development exercise? Robust system of student career development and support. I think there is going to be a new role for the faculty. Research again, research for research and research for teaching. Many a times we do research for research, but there is an also requirement for research for teaching. We'll go to the next. I think this is going to be the new role of faculty members. You are going to involve in curriculum development. You are going to involve in new assessment innovations, innovative pedagogy, institutional development and strategic planning, research for teaching and research for research. In most of the institutions, teachers do the teaching, research and what we call services, administrative process they involve. I think we need to give a new shape or an entirely new structure for this, whether the teaching community is ready to go for it or not. And I don't mind, that's a typical, only though the student needs to understand that I'm talking about teachers' requirement, whether they can do an assessment of their own teachers, whether they are like this or not. But if the faculties are able to hear to listen to me with that seriousness, that's more than sufficient for next 10 minutes. Next one. I think we consider leaders, the chairman of the institution or the principal, director, HODs as the leaders. But what about these professors, associate professors, assistant professors? Are they not leaders? That's the question. Operational and strategic management. So these are all the shift we expect in the NEP era. So NEP as a strategic role, what it plays for teachers is this shift. Is that only these people are leaders, or every professor in the institution can we call him or her as leader? And how to, I think we need to understand that how we can call a professor as a leader. That's where I think we need to have much discussions or more discussions like this. We'll go to the next one. Now, this is what I picked up in some of my readings. I'll go to the second one. Leadership resound with the ability to manage change. And this is exactly the teachers are going to play the role in the days to come in any institution for implementation of NEP. It is all about change management. So one of the biggest role of a leader in any case is change management. So how you are going to plan that and execute that so that effectively you can implement NEP so that you get the benefit. The discussions on NEP policy points will go on, whether good, bad, negative, positive. But what is there for you as an institution, as an individual? If you implement, what benefit you can definitely get out of this, pass on to the community. I think that's where I think every faculty member has to play the role of a change manager. We'll go to the next. These are all the important qualities of a leader. I think that is required for a teacher also or a faculty member also. It is more than teaching skills and research skills. I'll just go to the bottom line. Academia need both collaborative and transformative models of leadership. I'll not get into the details of what is this collaborative and transformation in the context of academia due to the paucity of time, but I think teachers has to play this role. If we are serious as a profession, I think we mean it and also we will do it. Next one. I think faculty are going to involve in the days to come on strategic planning. Every institution to become autonomous degree granting college, you need to have an enabled board of governors and you manage and run your institution as per the institutional development plan called IDP. And to develop the entire IDP, I think the faculty members are one of the most important stakeholders. That means even teachers, the faculty are going to play a role in the very strategic planning of the institution as per the NEP through the IDP. So vision beyond classroom transaction of the content, that's the required thing for a teacher. And if we limit our role, I think definitely we will not able to see any change on the ground. Next. These are the competencies with respect to teaching, learning, student support, research. I think these three are there with us already and most of us are following it or we are equipped with that. I think the organizational one is the real going to make the difference. So we are only the teaching and research community. I think we are also the strategic partner of the institution and we involve in the development of the institution. Whether it is public or private, it holds good. I think we need this kind of competencies. Next. This is the skill inventory for an academic leader. Relating, sense making, visioning, inventing. All the four are very simple one. That's the reason I had given with reference from where I have taken the meaning of this in the bracket. I will not get into the discussion of this at this point of time. And all which are there in the brackets gives a simple meaning of the term. Even the visionary doesn't mean that a big thing. I made it very simple over there. These are the skill inventory which is required for a faculty to play the role which is envisioned in the NEP. So learners are at the center. I already mentioned. The learner means that includes even teachers as learners. We'll go to the next one. So teachers are going to have all these caps. They are going to be the mentor, researcher, most important for today's requirement and to face the future challenges in the academia. It is lifelong learner, experimenter, problem solver. We must be an innovator. See, most of the time, many things I generalize, not specifically for some of the institutions which are exceptional or what we call premium institutions. But most of the institutions have this problem of innovation and they always with the faculty members will only with the classroom transaction and never think beyond that. Excellent teachers, mathematics professor, wonderful research. But finally, what is a contribution towards the organizational development and the larger picture of the education? And is an innovation in terms of the education, pedagogy, curricula, etc. That's the difference we are going to have in the days to come. If you really would like to be in the profession, as a good teacher normally calls us people, so I think we need to be ready to wear all these caps. Then only we can, I think we can show the world that we are also leader as a professor, as a assistant professor, as an associate professor. It's not the only your administrative head. So I think this is the context of the faculty role in the NEP. Next one. So self-renewal is the key. Policy talks about professional development, continuous professional development of teachers and faculty members of higher education institutions. But it is the important thing here is the self-renewal. Otherwise, our license will be expired. Next. Many institutions at NEP, at the CES also we do a lot of research in the context of NEP. And we developed a model. If anybody would like to understand and implement the NEP spirit-wise, there are only 3 steps. Aware, act and achieve, what we call. Then the institution will become NEP ready. Understand the very spirit of NEP. After 2 years also with the basic NEP ideas, we are discussing and not from the perspective of implementation. That's the problem. If you are discussing from the perspective of implementation, that is fine. But the very basic idea still we are discussing, and the state and the center is planning for roadmap preparation for implementation. It's a huge gap we can find here. That means the understanding is still missing. So that's what aware I mean. And then act, work towards that, prepare your roadmap, and then achieve. That means you become an NEP ready institution with what the buzzword I introduced in the beginning of my presentation. So most of the time we would like to become relevant at the international scenario. I think our policy is well appreciated globally, and we have something called India level. We wait for all this. Government will give all the regulations, guidelines, and the intra-state, every state will prepare their own roadmap. Most of the institutions wait for that. I think there is a lot to do at the institutional level and individual level. That's where I think today's my session is more relevant for the people who are seriously thinking about implementation of NEP and contribute as a faculty member. So the role of teacher is going to change. That the one thing that most of the time in words we implement, in papers we implement, but the real spirit is never get into the institution at all. In such case, no change will happen. And no faculty need not to worry for a more learning, or learn of new thing, innovations, nothing. Things will work. Whatever that today is there, you can be like that only. But really that you like to mean for all the policy points we implemented spirit-wise. Question mark. You go to the next one. This is my submission to all of you. So if any, I think I have managed your time. If any questions are there, so I am happy to answer. Not necessarily on the role of teacher, on the policy also. I involved in the entire policy development in the Kasturirangan committee. Kasturirangan ji used to say this policy is for a cultural shift in the education. Nothing else. You can talk big ideas, everything, but it is for a cultural shift. Otherwise, we find the people. Okay. Anyway, any questions? I have not asked any students, man. There are some audience are here, even your faculty members. My question. Sorry, I am asking. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
So the trim trap.
Yeah.
The picture is still picture abhi baki thi na, so trim trap.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll come to that. Any other questions? Okay, please, ma'am.
So I would like to know that though the government is working on the roadmap to implement and bring in the NEP, what will be the fate of all small institutes in near future?
Okay. Yeah, policy has some inbuilt solution. Whether how to make it practically implementable, one I think still we need to think. Because we are talking every time to make every institution autonomous degree granting college at least, if not university. Policy says very clearly if any institution is not possible to become an autonomous degree granting college, there are two ways. They should become the part of an university as a constituent college. Second possibility policy has given is become a part of a cluster, higher education cluster, and still you can manage your institution. But to make it really happen in that way is, I think, a very policy decision, and there are many other issues involved. And policy is very realistic according to me because it has given 15 years time. The policy life is 25 years maximum. But they had given 15 years time to think about making every institution as an independent governing institution, autonomous degree granting college. So I think that's the time every college has now. And policy also says that government and the universities, what we call affiliating universities, also provide all mentoring and other support to every institution to become autonomous degree granting college. Let us assume that it is practically not possible to make every institution an autonomous college. at least there will be a lot of quality improvement in teaching learning process in every institution, and the very thinking of getting that autonomy and involve in curriculum design and use the assessment system, at least we will have that in every institution for that matter. The problem with the small institutions, the rural area institutions, they don't have access to all this. They are doing better jobs. I am not telling that they are not doing anything, but they have all limitations and challenges. But I think at least this kind of thinking will go on that institution. These basic things will be implemented. So that is practically possible for every institution, whether it is a small or big, or whether in rural area or in urban area. I think that extent it is achievable. I think universities, I don't know whether all vice chancellors has gone out for lunch. It is the role of an university to make every institution autonomous. Of course, every private college and public institution will put their own effort. I am not telling that they should not. It is entirely the university responsibility. If you ask any public university, they will say, if affiliation system goes, if any affiliation system professor is here, they know very well what is their main source of income for that university is come from the affiliation system. Then how we have to manage the university? This is one of the questions asked by one of the vice chancellor. If your affiliation system goes, how we manage? So I think that's the problem of a vice chancellor to think about it. But they have to play a role to make every institution go out of the affiliation system phase-wise.
Okay.
Okay, sir, we'll go to the last slide. I think that paragraph will tell you. Sorry, last slide. And this slide is also important for me for many reasons. The first reason is I would like to thank all of you. I know that it is a very sandwich session. So you have closed the door. Kila ka darwaza band hai. Soldiers, they can't go out. So that's the situation I am taking this session. So that's the reason I would like to thank everybody who clapped me in the midst of the session also. That has given a lot of encouragement to me. Second one is, where there is a will, there is a way. I think that is for all of you who think it is not practically possible. And this is especially you asked, I think it's self-explanatory. Otherwise, we need to go through the whole discussion or the speech of that man. Very interesting one. Last one is the information about me and also about my contact, etc. important for me. Thank you very much.